But they said to us, don't tell the health insurance company until you're done, you've paid for the program, we'll give you a final invoice, and then you approach the medical insurance company. Well, how many of you think going to your medical insurance company after incurring tens of thousands of dollars expenses, they're going to say, okay, here's the check? So, I mean, that's pretty ridiculous, but that was in fact what they told our fictitious parent. The second one is just kind of another interesting thing. They told us that if our child ate a whole grain diet and exercised and rested, that the bipolar and depression would just go away. And based upon our discussion, I'm not qualified to tell you whether that's true or not, but the people we talked to that are said that there is no evidence that that is a true statement. And then the next one is the conflict of interest case, and it's probably a program many of you heard of. I won't mention it necessarily as you ask me, but they said they were going to look at our kids' special situations, and they would help us select the best school based on those specific situations. And in this particular case, we went to them 3 times with 3 different scenarios. It was a Missouri boot camp, and guess what? They sent us to the same place each time. Well, as it turns out, the referral was owned by the husband, and the boot camp was owned by the wife. So you were really dealing with the same place. So where else are they going to refer us to? So very deceptive marketing in that case, and that was a case that we actually ended up referring to the FBI, and so you probably know which one that is. Just a couple of concluding points, and then I can be done, or if anybody wants to ask me any questions. But you're all aware, and I saw it in the materials here, of the February reintroduction of the Stop Child Abuse in Residential Programs bill. Chairman Miller and his committee marked up recently, so that is something that's on the way, and I assume it will get through the House again, and then it needs to be going through the Senate before it goes to the President. So, and that's certainly what I think you would all agree probably be a step in the right direction here. I also saw the second bullet I've got here was in your materials to the FTC information, which I think is helpful. It doesn't solve the problem, but it at least provides some resources out there and some warnings to parents. The third bullet is really related to a lot of the kids that were in our case studies actually either died or were abused on federal land. And so you see here that the Bureau of Land Management, which I believe is part of Interior, Christine, is that correct? They have issued new policies to tighten this thing up. So there's been some activity there. And then I have note here on our webpage, it's gao.gov. If you're interested in our 2 testimonies, they're on our webpage under these citations there. And I will recognize again Special Agent Christine Hudakovic. She's sitting there in the 3rd row. She was involved in both of these, and also Andrew McIntosh here has been involved in both of these, so I recognize him also. And I would say 2 concluding points. We are also, Chairman Miller's asked us to look, and he's issued a press release on it, at issues of seclusion and restraint in public and private schools. So anyone that has any particularly interesting cases or leads for us on that, we are looking at that for the committee, and certainly will probably reuse some of the work we've already done, because there were issues of abusive seclusion and restraint in the 18 cases we already looked at. But this is getting now into public schools and getting into kids with other types of needs, such as autistic kids, etc. So that's something that we're doing, and we'll work with the chairman on that and his staff. And again, if you have any leads on that, let me know. But I just also want to say, yesterday was my daughter's birthday, and she was 4 years old. I have 1 daughter, so I can understand, I can't fully understand the pain of the parents that have lost children, but I think I have a pretty good idea of what it would be like to lose a child. And so I just want to encourage the parents here to continue the fight, and hopefully down the road you'll be able to look back and say your efforts made it better for other generations of kids, so they won't have to face the same abuses and tortures that your kids faced, or the same negligence or incompetence that your kids faced in some of the programs where they either died or were abused. And so with that, I'll close. And you want to have you open for questions, or? Okay. Anybody have any questions? I'd be happy to answer. Otherwise, we can move on. Yes.
Seclusion research that you're doing now. What is the deadline for getting you information on that? What is the deadline for getting you information on that?
Yeah, in case you didn't hear the question, your question is, what is the deadline? Well, we're trying to work with cases that don't have ongoing litigation. That's typically our protocol, but within the next 2 to 4 weeks, we're going to try to get the cases we're going to work, and we're going to do the same thing we did before. We're trying to look at how many actually allegations and issues are out there, and a little bit of look at state regulations, etc. But within the next 2 to 4 weeks, anything beyond that, we probably won't be able to use it. Thank you. Yes, sir.
I would like maybe some advice with regard to this aspect. I have a son who was at a facility, and the facility was really a place for kids that had drug and alcohol issues. And my son, who's he's I don't know, I think he's bipolar. I'm not sure what he is, but he's on the spectrum. And you know, I made it very clear to them that that he had special needs, and they claimed to have all the therapists and everything that we needed. Anyway, to make a long story short, we had to get him out of there because he lost 50 pounds in 7 months, and he finally broke down on one of the visits. We used to go out once a month. We were not allowed to go out unannounced. He was all the way out in Utah. We live in New York. And on one of the visits at the hotel, he broke down. He took my electric razor. He goes, "Dad, I'll slit my wrist. I just can't stay here any longer." He said the pressure points they're making me do sit-ups on cement, push-ups in ant piles, you know, dirt with red ants. It goes on and on and on. What I want to know is, you know, is there someone I can contact to start an investigation against this particular place? Yeah, it was called the Diamond Ranch Academy. You know, they misled us, and they set my son. They set him back. You know, they really set him back, and he's worse emotionally. He's traumatized to the point where he's in the hotel room right now. I couldn't get him to come here because he's afraid to be in public with people. He didn't have that before he went there. He's so fearful. He thinks there's someone out to kill him now. He's come back with a whole new set of issues because nobody was giving him any therapy. We kept asking him about his therapy. We kept finding out he wasn't giving him therapy. They were maintaining him. We gave him access to material like he came home with a fascination on serial killers and on John Gotti. So they provided access to information. And as long as he kept it became obvious to me, as long as he kept himself busy, that was fine. He was out of their care. And they special assessed me because my son was special needs. So instead of the $6,000 a month, it was $8,200 a month. You know, because he was supposed to get the special needs treatment that he was not getting. And I don't know where to go with that. He's home right now. We're still trying to get him placed. He's been out of school now since November. As I said, we have trouble. He has good days and bad days, but I don't know where to go. Right.
Well, I think if they're licensed, and others here might know answers better than I do, but I think if they're licensed by the state, you should definitely file a complaint with the state, I would imagine there. And if you believe there's criminal acts involved in what was done, that would be beginning with probably local or state law enforcement.
It's literally deceptive because they don't have a psychiatrist on staff. I've come to find out. You know, I was also accepted before we applied.
Before you applied, that's interesting.
Yeah, I was hearing what I wanted to hear because my son, we had tried so many different other things, and he was on so many different medications. One of the things we wanted to do was get him off medication for a short period of time to see who he was, because he's been on all these different medications over like a 7-year period. So we did bring him under the guidance of my psychiatrist, you know, his psychiatrist here in New York. We weaned him off all meds, got him med-free for 3 or 4 months. We thought he was doing great. He was being stoic. He was holding things in because they instilled in him this. They brainwashed him. Okay, that he and everyone, every kid out there was a manipulator, and they believe in this only by this one book, the color code, and they live by this color code. You're either red, blue, yellow, or green, and he's a mess as a result of this. Okay.
We got, I think, state or law enforcement, but again, we found in the work we do across government and non-government that there are people out there who will tell you anything to separate you from your money. I mean, that is true, and it's becoming, with the economy like it is, I think there are more and more of those types of situations. So I think we move on here. Thank you very much.